The next question is, many, especially in Ramadan, begin to recite the Quran from the iPhone. Is there more reward for the recitation of the Quran from a mushaf? This is a matter that goes to one's personal preference. I don't think anyone can say with certainty that the recitation from the mushaf is more reward than the recitation from a digital device. The main reward for the recitation of the Quran, the reward where one will attain a hasana for each letter, and that's multiplied by 10 folds, that reward is based on recitation. Recitation is the movement of the lips. Not moving the lips is contemplation. The person may, inshallah, get reward for contemplating the Quran if he looks at it and thinks about its verses without moving the lips, but that's not recitation. For it to be recitation, the lips must move. Take this scenario, for example. If someone gives an oath, for example, he says, I'm not going to read this certain surah. Then he opens the Quran and looks at that surah, pondering upon it with his eyes, but not moving his lips. That person did not violate his oath because he's looking, he's pondering, he's contemplating, but he's not reciting. If one is able to move his lips in salah to recite Surah Al-Fatiha, but ponders upon it with his heart without moving his lips, that salah is invalid because he didn't recite Al-Fatiha. The point for us here is that a person who moves his lips in the recitation of the Quran is a reciter that will attain the 10 hasanat per letter, insha'Allah. And of course, in blessed times like Ramadan, the deed is many more folds than that. Attaining that reward doesn't matter if one is reciting from the mushaf or from an iPad or a computer or an iPhone or any digital device or even from memory. You choose the means that you're comfortable with, the means that boosts your iman and attains you a present heart, the means that increases your khushu'. Some said it's better for one to recite from the mushaf even if he memorizes the Quran. Why? They said because looking into the mushaf is an additional ibadah that occupies the eyes. So he gets the reward for recitation and the reward for looking into the mushaf. They said one gets 10 hasanat per letter, and on top of that, the reward for looking with his eyes at the mushaf. There's several weak and fabricated marfu' hadith that state that looking into the mushaf is a ibadah. It's a worship. None of them are authentic. What attains one more khushu' and tadabbur is the method one should use. What I personally recommend, if one has the choice between reciting from a digital device or the mushaf, I definitely would choose the mushaf. And that's a personal preference because there's many unique characteristics in reciting from a mushaf. It's sufficient to know that the mushaf is referred to as Kitabullah. The phone or the computer are not referred to as Kitabullah. One can go into the restroom with a phone, but he shouldn't do that with a mushaf. The mushaf must be placed in a respectable place, and the iPhone can be placed anywhere. The mushaf is sacred to the point that one who purposely desecrates the mushaf by insulting it or placing najasa on it or throwing the mushaf into filth or steps on it, that person is a kafir by ijma'. He's a murtad by ijma'. It's not permissible to place something on the Quran that's considered unclean or dirty, even if it's pure, even if it's not najasa, like saliva, for example. Ulama spoke strongly against what many do of putting the saliva on their fingers when they flipped the pages of the Quran. They spoke strongly against that, even though saliva is not najis. This shows the high regard of the Mus'haf. And I've discussed the issue of whether a woman on her menstrual days or a person who's not on wudu can touch the Mus'haf. And that was in the Gems of Ramadan, and the lecture was the woman in Ramadan. One can refer to the ruling on that matter in that talk. The fact that ulama even dispute whether one can touch the Mus'haf while he's not on wudu shows the elevated status of the Mus'haf. The iPhone, the computer are not held in that high honor. The Mus'haf is a symbol of Islam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ذَلِكَ وَمَن يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. It's from the taqwa of the heart to honor the symbols of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Quran is one of them. Another issue is that there might be distractions when one recites the Quran with an iPhone or a digital device, because the phone is used for tens of other purposes like communicating, and that may cause distractions while someone is reciting the Quran. He may get a call, or he may habitually open other apps that distract him from the recitation of the Quran. So my personal preference would be the recitation from the Mus'haf, but the bottom line is it goes back to one's personal preference in what attains him more khushu' and tadabbur. Wallahu a'lam.